Hey, shalom everyone. Today I want to show you something shocking. While every Western nation is dying demographically, Israel is exploding with life. In the community everyone loves to criticize, the ultra-Orthodox Jews is becoming our secret weapon. Let me paint you a picture. Italy, 1.2 children per woman. Germany, 1.5. United States, 1.6. Canada, 1.25. Now you need 2.1 just to maintain a population. Every Western nation is below that. Ukraine, 1 child per woman. They're literally disappearing. These aren't just numbers, friends. These are civilizations choosing to end. And here's Israel, surrounded by enemies, fighting war after war, living under constant threat. Logic says our birth rate should collapse, right? But according to the 2024 Israeli census, Jewish women in Israel are having 3.06 children on average. Israel is the only Western nation above 3 children per woman. Even during the October 7th war, the birth rate went up. Why? Because we have hope. Because we trust that God has a plan for this nation. By 2030, Israel will have 11 million people. We've already surpassed Austria and Switzerland in population, countries that had millions more people than us in the 1980s. Little Israel, constantly at war, is outgrowing stable European countries. If that's not a miracle, I don't know what is. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Who is driving this miracle? Yes, God, of course. But his main tool? The ultra-Orthodox Jewish community. These families are having 6.1 children on average. And I want you to understand something. These are people who maintain Torah observance through centuries of persecution. They kept the flame of Judaism alive through pogroms, expulsions, and the Holocaust. When so many in the Western world abandoned faith and family, the ultra-Orthodox said, no, we're keeping God's commandment to be fruitful and to multiply. We are raising large families. And God is honoring that faithfulness. While secular Europe produces empty nurseries, the ultra-Orthodox produce life. But let me be honest about something. Israel was founded as largely secular state. And from the beginning, there's been tension between the secular majority and the religious communities. Military service became the flashpoint, a wedge that drove communities apart. This wasn't just about policy, it was personal. Secular Israelis saw the ultra-Orthodox as avoiding their national duty. The ultra-Orthodox felt pressured to abandon their way of life. The divide deepened and trust eroded. But here's what's so important to understand. The ultra-Orthodox faced challenges no other Israeli community has faced. For generations, their world was the yeshiva, the synagogue, the home, and now they're being asked to enter a workforce that operates on Shabbat, serve in the army with mixed gender units, and integrate into a largely secular culture. No other Israeli community has had to make this kind of transformation. And you know what? They're stepping up. In the IDF, there's a special combat unit called Nachal Haredi, specifically designed for ultra-Orthodox soldiers. This unit is proving you can be both fully devoted to God and fully committed to defending your nation. These soldiers face criticism from their own communities, but they go anyway, saying, God brought us back to this land, and we are going to defend it. And if that's not enough, the ultra-Orthodox workforce participation has jumped from 50% to 58% in just a few years. And they're excelling, becoming programmers, engineers, medical professionals. Years of intensive Torah study taught them how to think, analyze, and learn complex material. Nehemiah 4:17 says, "Those who built on the wall and those who carried burdens loaded themselves so that with one hand they worked at construction and with the other held a weapon." That's the ultra-Orthodox community, building Israel's economically with one hand, defending it militarily with the other. Now, is it perfect? No. Guess what? Oftentimes, if we focus on the negative, we may miss what God is doing. Yes, there are growing pains, but these are signs that something is alive and moving. Every ultra-Orthodox soldier who serves, every man who enters the workforce, these are prophetic signs that God is preparing His people for something big. And here's the bottom line. Military service and entry into the workforce are transforming their natural population growth into something truly significant for the nation's growth and its defense. What was once seen as a burden has become an asset. The demographic engine that everyone worried about is now becoming Israel's greatest strength. And here's something that will blow your mind. For the first time in Israel's history, the Jewish natural growth rate has overtaken the Muslim growth rate. 1.6% Jewish compared to 1.4% Muslim. The prophets of doom were wrong. Instead of Israel collapsing, we're watching the nations collapse, while Israel, thanks largely to the ultra-Orthodox, flourishes. Friends, what we're watching is nothing less than God's providence. He preserved them through the Holocaust. He brought them to Israel. He multiplied them, and now He's positioning them to be a massive blessing to the entire nation. Jeremiah 31 verse 10 promised, "He who scattered Israel will gather him and keep him as a shepherd does his flock." Friends, God is gathering all of His people and making us one nation. God's not done with the ultra-Orthodox community. He's just getting started. Shalom and L'chaim from the nation that chooses life.